Hello, and welcome to today's video where I will be sketching a centipede. This is from a sketching trip from the New Orleans Audubon Insectarium and Aquarium. That is kind of a mouthful. Like my last video, this is actually old footage. So I went back when they were doing an Animal Crossings theme. So you had this little punch card, or no, it was a stamp card where you could go and track down all of the people with the little stamps and collect that. And I thought that was really fun, but really it was just an excuse to go because we love bugs here, and the fact that we have an insectarium relatively close that we could do a day trip, crazy. So we went to the insectarium and also the aquarium, but I decided to draw a little spread of critters from all of the many photos that I took, because I took so many photos, and I figured I would start on this spread with a centipede because this trip really became kind of highlighted by the centipede, which is character growth for me because I went in not liking centipedes, thinking that they are very scary and kind of not creeped out by them, but like, I don't know, they have so many legs and their legs are all pokey. But consider me not quite converted, but at least endeared to centipedes after this trip. Let me tell you why. As soon as we entered, there were two workers that had these little booths set up, right? One had a millipede and was absolutely swarmed by little kids. Understandably, they could pick up the millipede. Very exciting, very cool. But there was also a guy with a centipede, and there wasn't a lot of kids, and at one point there was like a proper lull where there was no one there. So we moseyed our way up, and we found out why. The centipede had wedged himself into this like rocky part of the enclosure. You could still see him, but he wasn't really doing anything. He was just kind of burrowed down, and honestly, mood, same. But yeah, so we were just, okay, cool. Not much to see, so we started chatting with the guy. I mean, it's not like we weren't going to chat with the guy, but you know what I mean. We started talking with the guy, and he was telling us all of these cool little centipede fun facts, and right away, the energy was great. This guy was so enthusiastic. It was wonderful, and he was so excited to share with us all of these little fun facts about peanut butter and jelly, which are the names of the centipedes at the insectarium. So the one in the enclosure that he had to talk about was peanut butter, and out in the actual insectarium, in their normal enclosure, was jelly. That is so cute. I love that so much. But yeah, he was telling us all of these little fun facts, like how to identify the head from the tail, where they live, how they whip their tail around to inject venom into critters that would try to eat them so that they can actually eat the other critters trying to eat them. Very, very cool defense mechanism, very hunting mechanism, maybe? Either way, very cool, very exciting. One of the coolest facts that I thought was that they were explaining how you can identify how old a centipede is by how many segments it's grown, like a tree. That was really cool. And the fun facts were really cool in and of themselves, but this guy's excitement was so contagious. Like, I promise you, we left that little booth and I walked around the rest of the insectarium with such enthusiasm for all of the critters beyond what I normally would have had. Because don't get me wrong, I love a bug and I have plenty of enthusiasm, but the excitement of reading literally everything to find all of these little fun facts about all of the bugs, that really carried through, and that was such a good... I'm so happy that they were at the start of the insectarium, and so that set the mood for the entire experience. It was great. But yeah, now to actually talk about the art now. Whoops. I think this was the first time in a long time that I had used colored pencils. Like I said, this was recorded a while ago, and it was recorded shortly after I moved apartments, so I had unpacked all of my art supplies, and I found my colored pencils again, which I used to use them so much in high school, so much, that when I got to college, I think I just scrapped them. Like, obviously I kept them, I still have them, but I don't remember using them almost at all. So this was really like a revisiting of an old beloved art supply. And because of that, I really had to figure out how to use them again. I'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I sketched with a completely different non-color pencil, colored pencil. And what I mean by that is just it is easier to erase, though I don't think it's easy to see on the video. So maybe I didn't erase too much, but definitely felt like I would need to, because I think the hardest part was sketching the centipede out, because oh my gosh, trying to figure out how all of those little segments were positioned in three-dimensional space and just keeping track of how many there are and how many that I've already drawn and like where I'm at. And then the legs, all of those little legs. I got lost a few times, I'm not gonna lie. I think I even left off a little segment, because you might notice this when we get to the that far into the coloring stage. I'm pretty sure I had already colored it as a paler segment, and then I had to go back over it and darken it to be like the blending into the dark section, because I had not drawn enough little segments. So the drawing was definitely, I had to really pay attention to what I was doing, but the coloring, while less difficult, I think, was still pretty difficult, because I had to figure out how to use color pencils again and how to layer the colors to get the colors that I wanted and the effect that I wanted. I did have probably more fun coloring it than drawing it, I will say that. I struggled to remember, like I said, how to use the color pencils, especially because a lot of my color pencils are still Crayola color pencils, so they get really waxy really quickly, and they're a harder wax. So I press down hard, and that means it's very hard to do the thing you need to do with color pencils, because they're kind of like watercolors in you need to keep your lights light. You need to keep that in mind the whole way through and work light to dark, whereas I have been so used to doing digital and acrylic paint things, which is you put down your base coat or like your base mid-tone color, and then you really push the lights light and you push the darks dark after that mid-tone color, at least the way I use those mediums. So flipping back to color pencils, where they're more like watercolor in that you need to leave the light spots and work light to dark very, not strictly, because I did bring out a tiny little eraser that I have and kind of lightened what I could, but you're never going to get the white of the page back again after you lay down a section of color pencil. And so that was definitely a challenge, and a good challenge, but it was definitely something to keep in mind the entire time. But I did have a lot of fun drawing, and as much as I'm saying like, oh, it was so difficult to get back into color pencils, I still enjoyed it, and I still had enough, I guess, lack of focus. That makes it sound wrong. I had enough like free mental capacity to really be able to enjoy it and have like a little podfic going in the background and just enjoy my time, because I was doing this after work. I did this, I think, 2 nights back to back after work, where it's like I did all my after work things, and then I just sat down at my desk, I put on the little podfic, and I just went to town drawing and coloring this little centipede. And it was so nice, and it really did, between that, like just sitting at the desk after you've done all of your work for the day, and being back into using color pencils, really took me back to high school, where I would like do all my homework and do all of my things, and then I would sit down at my desk and just color things. And that was really nice. It was super cozy, I guess is the word. And that is great, because something that I've really struggled with having a normal, technically not 9 to 5, my hours are different, but having a normal office job is not really having the time to fully block out entire days to projects anymore. I'm really working with a few hours after work, and that has been so difficult to manage, because I really am I want to knock it all out in one go. I'm that kind of person. So figuring out how to break things apart and pick things up has been a struggle. I'm also not a multitasker. I am a one project at a time person, which I'm trying to get away from, because so many different things And so many different artists have said like, oh yeah, working on multiple projects is like the way to go. You get stuck in one, you can move on to the other. But I've always just really been not that kind of person. So I'm trying my best to get back to that. So this was a great experience. It was super cozy being able to have something very clear cut, like, oh, I am just doing a study of this photo. That is all. And also doing studies like this, super nice. Love doing this because it really helps me observe. And doing this from life is also great. Like one of the easiest things to calm me down if I'm like in one of those chaotic mindsets is just have my sketchbook out and pick a thing in the space around me and just start drawing. Just start live drawing the things. Doesn't matter if it's perfect, doesn't matter if you mess up, just pick up a pen and start drawing something. And taking the time to really notice and observe what is around you is so calming. And also it really helps you look at things and look closer than what you may have normally. So like with this centipede, I don't think before I did the study, I realized that the back has two little ridge things, like two little ridge indentions going all the way down it. I didn't realize that until I started coloring it and I was like, oh, that's why the shadows and highlights are the way they are. Like I didn't quite see that. And also because of how many times I've drawn bugs, when I went to draw the legs of the centipede, I was like, oh my gosh, they're structured like so many other bug legs. These are kind of familiar, which made the centipede a little less, not terrifying, but like, I don't know, when I think of centipedes, I think of spooky little legs. And seeing that they're just slightly pointier and chunkier than a lot of beetle legs made them more normalized to me. So that was nice. But yeah, just taking the time to actually like slow down, really observe, and like try to draw and color out what you're seeing and see those details is something that I always take for granted when it comes to art. And I'm constantly being reminded when I do sketches like this and studies like this. And it's just really fun. So I encourage you, if you don't already, go draw something and really look at the details and see all of the things that you don't normally see. So all of that to say, this was a delightful little sketchbook session. While I did originally want to do a lot of other little critters on the spread, I did cut it off after the centipede. I think at that point, it was just so big and I had spent so long on it, like way longer than I had originally thought. I thought I was going to knock out a spread of quick little bug doodles in like the one night that I had. And instead it was 2 nights and I just had a centipede. So I do think at some point I would like to come back to this spread and add more little doodles, probably not as detailed, just to fill it up and have this truly be a little insectarium spread in my sketchbook. I think that would be nice. But for now, the centipede is all that you will see. And while I imagine them to be super scary in real life, I really enjoyed seeing them at the insectarium. I enjoyed that guy chatting with us about them and just his enthusiasm and how contagious that was. Even thinking about it now, I'm like, man, bugs are so cool. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed my ramblings and seeing me try to illustrate a centipede and just mess around with color pencils. And I hope you have a great day. Have you ever seen a centipede in person? I would love to hear any stories of people who have just come across the centipede. Have you seen a centipede in an insectarium? Do you like them? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Please let me know. I'd love to hear. Until next time, bye-bye. Not me having to retake the audio because I clipped so bad in the last section. All right.